Welcome to I Married a Melchizedek, episode 5. And we have a very exciting episode planned for you today, starting off with a special and important reveal that's been a long time coming that will kick off a whole new era and direction of the Unity Bubble program and Unity Bubble website. Here to talk with me about that and about many other wonderful Melchizedek-like things is Hazel Davies, Headmaster Unity Bubble Facilitator, who through this in-depth series shares extremely valuable information learned and experiences experienced during her 18-plus year relationship with our beloved Jonathan C.R. Davies, her Melchizedek hubby, very little of which, as you can well imagine, was normal. How could it possibly be when you're hanging out with one of the wild cards of the universe? I'm your host, Renata Duma, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're so inclined. Links to all I Married a Melchizedek shows will also be listed on the Unity Bubble website at unitybubble.com for now, for your convenience on a separate page in the drop-down menu. And if you're not familiar with the Unity Bubble, soon to be renamed, I strongly encourage you to do so, as it is one of the greatest gifts to humanity since the Law of One. And now, once again, without further ado, here's Hazel. Hazel, welcome once again to your show.
Thank you, Renata. To episode 5. Who would have known we got this far? And I'm still sane. Or at least as sane as I ever was.
Well, it took us about a year and a half to get to episode 1, so I think we're doing really well.
Goodness. I do take a while sometimes. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. You know, it's worth the wait, right? It was worth the wait. Mm-hmm. So, as promised earlier, it's finally time to do the great reveal on the Unity Bubble's next phase in its evolutionary journey. Let's start by talking about the exciting new branding direction for what has been known as the Unity Bubble since its creation. But before we do that, let's talk about the word bubble and how it was first agreed upon. Hazel?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Okay, so we go right back to the very beginning of bubble work, which was the sacred bubble. And we talked a lot about what shall we name this thing. And Jonathan said, well, it's an 8th dimensional transformational vehicle. So we kind of said that to a few people, and the reaction was, oh, we're getting a new car?
Yeah.
We were like, oh, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So and Jonathan and I were never that creative in names and things like that. We just kind of say it how it is, and that's it. So we had quite a challenge trying to name this thing that would be so useful to everyone. And Jonathan said, well, it's kind of like a bubble. You know, it's got an outside layer, it's got a boundary, it's got an inside layer. And we said, well, that's nice. And he said, well, it has to be friendly. It has to be friendly. We don't want to scare people because we know it's really powerful, but we don't want to scare people off. Bubble, that sounds nice and friendly. It's going to have a kind of a humor, you know, because of the Melchizedeks, they're always a bit, you know, humorous. So it's got to be fun too, because life, you know, needs to be about fun as well. So it needs to be fun, it needs to be friendly, but it has to be serious too. And they were like, yeah, well, bubble kind of fits, you know. Yeah, let's call it a bubble. Why not? So, and that's what happened. And then what we found was people loved their bubbles, especially the children. Children absolutely love their bubble. And to this day, everybody that gets one loves their bubble. So it had many times people said, well, it sounds kind of weak. It sounds kind of silly, mm-hmm. You know, and then they would get one and they go, whoa, you know, it's way more than that.
Yeah.
But we never got around to changing it until now.
Exactly. And I find in my experience telling people about it, And I've spoken with other facilitators as well. And I get the same response in general is when you say you're going to give somebody a bubble, they're like, oh, no, it's okay. I've already got one, you know, or I could create my own bubble or, you know, I've had my own bubble for a long time. And I'm like, no, you haven't, you know, but then we're at a disadvantage before we've even begun.
I know.
To do
it's only in hindsight. It's only like for marketing. And of course, I've never been a marketer at all. Neither was Jonathan. So yeah, it's only in hindsight that you realize the power of it. And so that, yeah.
Yeah. So
people will still love their bubble. I know they will.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, you know, any of us who, you know, have called it that for so many years will always think of it that way, but we have a different reverence when we address our bubbles. We're not talking about a kind of a gum that you chew, you know?
No, exactly. And people do have their own bubbles, and there are many other bubbles out there, and they're probably all good. They're not this though.
No.
They're not this.
No, there isn't anything else.
No.
Well, all right. So then without further ado, let's have a little bit of a drum roll as you announce the new name of the Unity Bubble branding and website. Here we go. And the new name is
unityliving.life. Yeah, I love it. I love the name. You know, we looked at many other names that we could have picked, and nothing resonated until that one came up. And I said, yeah, that's what we're about. We're about life. Unity life.
It's right. And we're about to talk a little bit more about unity, because that's really the center of the entire thing, really, if you think about it, is unity. And it's interesting also how recently in the ethers, everybody's talking about unity all of a sudden, right? So this is telling me that we really, if we're reading the ethers correctly, that we chose well. Because if you think about it, if you put the emphasis on unity living life, it's us living our life. Yeah. Did you get goosebumps on that one?
I know. Yeah, we're going forward. We were just a little ahead of the game with the word unity.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so in terms of the new website, I've just been a little busy, but I promise my schedule is now clear. My last project is now up and running, and
well, I would like to congratulate you on getting your website up, and it is a platform. It's On a Hero's Journey, and people should follow that and look for that, because it is live now. I know you're going through the initial, you know, whatever challenges that there are with putting something as big as this, getting it up and running, but it's going to be so valuable for so many people dealing with all kinds of trauma, which is trauma when you think about it. That is all our issues are unresolved trauma. That's what it comes down to. And you've created this platform. So people, whoever's listening, watch out for it. On a Hero's Journey. Yes.
Thank you, Hazel. Yeah, I'll put up a link so everyone can join.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's completely free for everyone. That was the vision that I got 4 years ago, and it's taken this long for various reasons. I guess we're just on God's timing. You know what I mean? It's like it was going to happen when it was going to happen, not a second before or after it was ready to happen. And yes, it is 100% free. And I've taken Marina Jacoby's, who I adore, Marina, her philosophy of energy philanthropy. So we are running 100% based on energy philanthropy, which means based on donations from the heart. And so we'll see what the universe provides for that. But so it's free to join. So if you're a healer, please join. You will get to connect with heroes or anyone who wants to heal their trauma for free. That doesn't mean you work with them for free. It means you
No,
connect.
no.
The platform is about connecting, right?
Yeah, that's the platform.
Just the platform. That's correct. So you can connect with people who want to heal their trauma from all over the world that you would not otherwise be able to connect with. And I really encourage all of our facilitators to sign up as well, because what do we do?
But this is it, and it all works together. When it's good, it's good. And there's no competition here. There's just, it's all about moving people forward in whatever way that is appropriate for them.
Exactly.
Something, it has to resonate with them.
And I have a feeling that given the situation in the world and how it is unfolding, people are going to be searching for this in a big way, because they're going to want answers. They're going to want to, process the anger, the frustration, the cognitive dissonance that's going to arise from all of these things coming out into the public eye. And so the more visible we can make ourselves, the more opportunity we have to connect with those people and help them, because that's what we're here for to begin with anyway, right?
Yeah, to help. Yeah, when asked.
Exactly. Yeah. And so let's not go too far away from it. We promised to talk a little bit more about unity. So what can you tell us? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I know last time I read the statement that they gave me, that, we are one, we are inclusive and all that. I don't think I actually went into too much detail about some of the beings of unity. And it does not mean that every being that we talked to that was included in that collective was an eighth dimensional or higher being. The ones that were in that collective had something to offer us, either a perspective on something from a higher level, or that they maybe had been incarnate in a life and had some experience that they wished to give to us for greater clarification. Or sometimes it was like we had the grandmothers and grandfathers, from the native perspective. We also had nature spirits. We had the elementals, which, is a whole different thing in how to put voice to that, because it comes through, these things come through in feelings. They don't come through in language. You're not going to get a daisy talking to you, although they do talk if you I mean, I talk to the flowers a lot.
Sure.
And the weather, the elements, the wind, the fire, the earth, all the elements. So it was a combination into that collective. So it came from many different areas, bringing them into that one collective who spoke through the one voice, calling themselves unity. So does that explain?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, it's really the core of the whole thing, if you think about it. Right?
As long as they were in alignment, you see, and I have a particular gift, I suppose, just in my being, and so did Jonathan. We get that what they call the ring of truth. You get it, you just get it, and I can listen to something and know instantly. No, that's not on. It may be kind of on, but not to the fullest extent, or something like that. And he was the same. So we could be very sure that what we were actually doing with the removals and the infusions was of a very high caliber, and that was the goal.
Did you always know that you had that, or is that something that you sort of realized during the time that you were with Jonathan?
I think I've always had it, but I never realized I did. It's like being a healer. I was always a healer, but I didn't know. I just thought everybody could do that. And the same with Jonathan. You see, he thought that everybody could do what he could do, until I kind of showed him that, this is not normal.
No, and we're going to get into just how not normal it is in just a minute. All right. But just before we talk about that,
Yeah.
let's do a brief overview of the protocols, because we're trying to go through a very,
Yes.
sort of a structured overview of the whole Unity living life process. So if you can tell us just a bit of about the protocols, like an overview.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we started off with the sacred bubble, and then we used the sacred bubble to create the Unity bubble. And then about a year after the Unity bubble had been in operation, and we thought it was working just fine, I asked Jonathan to have a little talk with Unity, because he could do that. I couldn't do that, but he did. And the thing that came out of that conversation was that human beings were very resistant. They were just resistant to letting their issues go. And the opportunity was there with the Unity bubble for tremendous development and expansion of them, but they just wouldn't. And the bubble was, it has an intelligence, and it's a shame. It's a shame that human beings are so resistant. So then after the talk, then Jonathan said, well, we can't make the bubble any different because it's a sealed intelligence. We can't have a baby and then send it back and say, I think its ears should be a bit bigger so you can hear a bit more. We can't do that. So then it was like, well, what do we do? Because if human beings are resistant, they're not going to get full advantage of having the bubble in the first place. So then the idea of, okay, they need a separate transmission which addresses resistance, particularly resistance. So that was how the first protocol came about. And then we were done. We thought that was it, everything would be fine. And then it was a matter of following the breadcrumbs. And then the other protocols came, as they were shown to us. But the protocols are a specific energetic transmission designed for a particular issue or challenge, like resistance, and they went on for 7 more. So they're more like tools. The protocols are like tools to help you work with your bubble. They're not the bubble itself. Everything always comes back to the bubble, but they help, and they go deeper and deeper as things become more available to be released. So they're helpers. They're helpful transmissions.
You just said a word that I picked up on during our conversation about a week ago. You said we always have to think about or remember what is available to be released.
Yes.
And I thought that was brilliant because, you can't really, scrub everything clean in one go, can you?
No, because you cannot, because the analogy that I always use is your issues are like it's a bit like a big bucket of sand, and the bucket of sand has pebbles in it, and you give it a shake, and some of the pebbles come up to the top. That's what's available to be worked on. The ones that are deep down, they're not ready yet. You're not ready to bring them up into your awareness. Mm-hmm. And yes, I suppose in some way you could stir it up and cause more things to come up, but my favorite words are graceful and easeful. Mm-hmm. It's a process. It's systematic. I suppose if you were to stir that pot up and bring everything up to the top, it would be very traumatic. Oh, yeah. Very traumatic, and you really wouldn't know who you are. The Unity Bubble system brings it up slowly, sometimes not so slowly, but when it's ready, when you're ready to deal with it. So that's when I say it's available to be worked on now, because it's available to be released. See, if it's not available, you're going to recreate it. You're going to recreate it again because you haven't had the full experience of it.
Right. So
this is
about, let it go fully.
Right. Yeah. You have to be ready to let it go. Otherwise, and there's nothing to do with anybody else. It's your own job to do that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And this is another thing we haven't talked about, but now that I have you as a captive audience, that resistance, where do you think that having worked with it for so long and having seen it through your own eyes and through Jonathan's for so long, do you think where do you think that I'm trying to ask genetically
where it
do you
comes from.
think humans were actually tampered with, and is this our natural state, or is this part of the programming you know, that we've been exposed to, for lack of a better word, for so long, for so many years, or is this something, do you feel that it's more of an innate human characteristic? I'm curious to know what you.
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think there's the, you know, the karmic stuff that comes in, you know, lifetime after lifetime, that you haven't quite got to completion on a particular issue. So you bring in people into your life to figure that out, and maybe they've been in your life in some way in another lifetime, and it's a contractual contract, so you work this stuff out together. But the interference is huge. That has stopped a lot of people developing. There's subconscious resistances, there's unconscious resistances. Why would one be resistant? Probably fear of something, fear of the unknown, fear of this, you know, fear of that, a lot of fear.
It's that fear that's been programmed into
or an advantage. You see, sometimes people are resistant to letting something go because there's some kind of advantage. They may not see it as such, but when you've been working with people for a long time, you kind of can look through or in between and say, oh, you're getting an advantage for that, so why would you want to let it go? So then it becomes a self-worth issue. You know, maybe they're not good, all kinds of issues, you know, and they're all intermingled. There's never just one thing.
No, of course not. No. And again, that bucket, you know, we've all got those buckets, and you know, I guess when is the bucket finally empty? Well, I think when you're finally gone. That's when it's probably.
And then you go into the next bucket.
And then you find another bucket. Yeah, a bigger bucket, probably. Oh Lord.
The thing is, in this life, it is about, and you know, our natural state is to be in a childlike state. It is not to be in fear. It's not to be, you know, in lack. That is a lot of interferences that we've taken them on from our past. You know, I was born in 1947, so, you know, post World War II, when it was, you know, waste not, want not. So it gets drilled into you. You know, you eat that last pea on the plate because there's starving children in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you squeeze that toothpaste tube, you know, right down to the very last. So these things get imprinted, and then you think that that's the way it is, and that's the way it should be, until you realize, hey, wait a minute, that's not abundant. So again, you know, it's a releasing ourselves from those restrictions, from the ties, and then that brings you to that childlike state of joy, living in spontaneity, you know, living the divine virtues of a child.
Yeah.
And you see how they love life.
Well, isn't that's the last protocol, isn't it? Effortless living, right?
Yeah. And it's work to get there. It is work to get through all those things. And I don't think you can, well, in my personal opinion, I don't think you can rush it.
No.
You can be very very diligent about it, and you can be very committed to it, and that will actually take you through the program a lot faster. If somebody does, you know, takes a year to do it, then it'll take a year. But you can actually speed it up. Well, you know, if you do intensive work, you don't have to backtrack. You just keep going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know also from working with some of my clients that sometimes it's you know, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a year and a half.
Yeah,
right?
But that's not
And
it's to be open and willing. You have to be open and willing to do this work.
Yeah.
If you're not, then
absolutely, 300%. Well, now that we've gotten through some of the meat, let's get to the potatoes. So let's talk about Melchizedek weather manipulation. And to begin with, anyway, so I don't even know how to ask the question. So I know you know what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to hand it over to you.
Well, I don't know that I would call it manipulation. I'd certainly call it connectiveness.
Okay.
And an awareness and an ability to read. Like when we were in the motorhome, especially when we were in the Southwest. So, for example, in New Mexico is a 7,000 foot altitude. So they tend to give the weather out in, below 5,000 or above 6,000 or 7,000. That's how they give the weather. But sometimes we'd be driving along, he'd be driving along, and then he'd go, we better go back. And I would not have a clue, but didn't matter anyway. And then he would turn around, go back the other way, and we would park somewhere for the night. And then we would find out that there was an ice storm where we were planning on going. And he just would get it. And you don't want to be in an ice storm when you're in any way, but particularly when you're in a big motorhome. So he would know that. But Jonathan was a sailor. He was an amazing sailor. He took his little boat, his 25-foot little motor sailor, and he single-handedly went around Vancouver Island when we lived in BC. He took it himself, not only once, but I mean, he's like, it was such fun. He's going to do it again. He did it twice, which those waters around Vancouver Island are, they're pretty
treacherous. So yeah,
they're pretty. They have these whirlpools, that, and then I heard of wind over tide and tide over wind, and I don't know what you're talking about, Jonathan. And I'd go like, isn't it scary out there? He'd go, oh no, it's just so, and you just talk to the wind, and you know what the wind's doing, and I'm like, oh, this is not. I mean, it's not something that I would want to do. No. So I think his love of, I know, when he came over from England when he was only 3 years old. I don't remember the name of the boat. Anyway, it's a big boat, and it was very rough waters. It was Hurricane Hazel, actually, was what it was.
Of course.
But here I am. But he said that he remembered there was a swimming pool in the ship. And he remembered at 3 years old, sitting on the side and watching the water slush from like one side of the swimming pool to the other side. And he just thought this was the greatest thing out. And he'd never got seasick. Everybody else was being seasick. He was not seasick. He went to the cafeteria, he told me, and he ordered crepe Suzettes. And he sat there. I mean, imagine a 3-year-old ordering crepe Suzettes and sitting there eating them while everybody else is green flying around, and Jonathan's just loving it. He's just thinking this is the greatest thing out.
Well, there you go. There's another subliminal. I didn't even know, like the introduction to the show, right? When there's he's coming on his spaceship, and it says Hazel, right?
That's
so
right.
He came during Hurricane Hazel. I didn't even realize I did that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you must be tuned in, Renata.
Oh, I don't know. I've been told I'm a little psychic. Just
a bit. Yeah. What else? So weather. What would he do?
There's something about lamp posts.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Well, he was experimenting with how big his field was, his energetic field. Right. So we were suddenly driving along, and then a street light would go out, and then it would come on after we left. So he experimented with how far out could he actually put the street light out. It wasn't putting all the streetlights out. It wasn't dangerous, but it was very interesting because you could put 2 or 3 out all in one go, right? And then they'd come on again. Or we did, like one time we were staying in a hotel and we were doing some work in the hotel, and all the lights in the hotel went out. Only our hotel. No, we looked out of the window and all the lights everywhere else were still on, but our hotel was in darkness. So I said, Johnny, you better pull your energy in a bit. So okay, so he did, and all the lights come back on again. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
No, you certainly cannot. You certainly cannot. Well, we all know about his love of his motorcycle. And tell us a little bit about how did he actually make it right across Canada and across the United States? Or I know he covered pretty much a good hunk of North America.
In his bike, yeah. I think that was earlier on, before I knew him, because he was always into motorbikes.
Yeah, but, okay.
Yeah, he loved his bikes. It was the freedom for him. It was the joy, again, of the wind in the face and just the speed and the motion. Yeah, he loved that. He was a pilot too. He got his private pilot's license while I knew him, and we had a little plane. We had we through a series of circumstances, we ended up with the whole company at one point.
Wow,
which was a bit of a stress.
Well, you shared that one picture with me, which I will share with the audience. It's just amazing. Those three little.
That was when that particular plane. It was built in England, and that was not the certification, but the press release. And it was done at Heathrow. We're talking quite a long time ago, and when they had three of these little planes, and they took them into Heathrow, and just happens that the Concord was also there at the same time, parked in the background. So we have this amazing picture of the Concord with these three little planes, and that was a true.
Yeah. Photo. Well, yeah, have a look
Jonathan,
at the screen, everyone. It's there for you.
Jonathan, he flew that little plane all the way down to Texas, from Ontario.
Oh, wow.
He flew it himself. He just did it in 200-mile stints and
increments.
Stopped, figured out where, I mean, it's a small plane, you don't have that much fuel. So 200 miles every day. I don't know how long it took him, but I met him down there. I wasn't going to do it.
You were going to.
No.
Yeah, I'll stay closer to the ground. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an ultralight, so it was, but it was very stable. It was a beautiful plane. I actually liked to sit in it and be flown around. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. How did he feel about the Concord? I could just imagine him flying that thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was a private pilot. He wasn't never a commercial pilot.
Right.
He would not have liked that. You see, he would not have liked to be a commercial pilot because he liked to fly with the feel, like he could feel the plane. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're a commercial pilot, you have your logbook, attached to your knee or on their lap, and they go by instruments. Mm. So it's all by instrument. So he didn't. He could fly by instrument, but he chose not to unless he absolutely had to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like some people like to drive on autopilot. I don't like that feeling at all.
No. Same thing.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same. Yeah. You shared something with me a few days ago that I thought was just precious. If you'd like to share about that, I know you've got it there with you. It's a little clipping that Jonathan.
Oh, the little clipping.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yes, this is what he carried around with himself. I found it the other day when I was going through a bunch of paperwork, and he carried this. It says Melchizedek, Prince of Peace, promoter of spiritual consciousness, free will, and Christ consciousness. He is in charge of preparing redemption, in distributing healing blessings, and to intervene when necessary in matters of consciousness. And it really spoke to him about what he was here about. I think it was a real comfort to him because he did all these things. And I think it gave him, well, I know it gave him some solace, that he wasn't totally nuts thinking that he could do all these things, Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Well, we'll have that up on the screen for everybody as well. Yeah, that's beautiful. It sounds so much like him. I remember discussing the Christ consciousness with Jonathan, and remember you and I, when I was building my Rada Lightwork site, something spoke to my soul very deeply and had me look into the Christ consciousness aspect of the Unity Bubble. And we had those conversations. Remember, we both came to the table. We both had the same book, Jonathan's book, open to the same page. It's like, yes. That was so funny. And I'm looking forward to exploring that aspect with you more in these shows. So leave us with one more fun thing. Something about a knife.
Okay, the knife. Okay, so we're in Texas in the motorhome again, and we go into the store. The place where they give you all the maps, and there's a case of knives, and Jonathan loved knives for all kinds of different things. And he's looking in the case and he's going, it's really nice. I really like that one. And said, could I have a look at it? And so he picked up the knife. They gave it to him. He looked at it. He fingered it and he said, it's really nice, but I don't really want to spend that amount of money. And, when you're traveling in a motorhome and you're crossing borders, you don't want to be having lots of knives on you. It's just not a good thing. So later on in that day, we had gone on a very remote walk. Like it wasn't a paved road at all. It was all rock. And we took our little car. Probably shouldn't have done it anyway, but we did. And it's very, very bumpy. And all of a sudden, Jonathan sees something glinting in front of the car. And he said, just a minute, I have to stop. Like, what are you doing? And he comes back with the knife.
My Lord. I
said, how does this, he said, yeah, but it's the knife that I saw that I saw in the store. This is the knife.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
No.
There is nothing to say.
No, no.
There's nothing to say. It was the exact knife that he saw, and I still have it, obviously.
Wow. Well, I guess
that knife did not walk across the,
No. I guess those are things that happen when you marry Melchizedek.
It appears to be.
Well, on that note, I see once again we're getting close to the end of today's showtime. Tune in again with Hazel and myself in 2 Tuesdays on I Married a Melchizedek, when we get to learn more about the life of a great being, Jonathan C.R. Davies, and the vital legacy he left behind, and Hazel's brilliant recollections thereof. We'll also explore more about the Unity living protocols that came after the creation of the Unity transformational vehicle. How do you like that? I didn't say bubble. Unity transformational vehicle. I'm going to have to get used to that. Yeah. And how they are meant to assist humanity, and how they actually do in the most profound ways imaginable. Once again, I'm your host, Renata Duma, wishing you beautiful days ahead in the full flow of all creation, full of joy, health, true abundance, and positive outcomes. Hazel, thank you for yet another wonderful show episode 5.
Thank you so much, Renata, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. With much love from Hazel and I to you, till we meet again on the next wise and equally whimsical episode of I Married a Melchizedek. See you then. Bye.